welcome to a special Thursday edition of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE. My next guest is a prominent voice um in the women's empowerment movement. Welcome to the show, Natalie Bedard. Hello.
Hi, Wiz. How are you?
I am fine. I am fine. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm also called Nat Nat. So if you're in a playful mood, you can call me either Natalie or Nat Nat, whatever you feel comfortable with.
That is fine with me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, but I appreciate you doing the show. Um, let's just jump right into it. Can you share your journey of becoming a leader in your field and what inspired you to focus on empowering women in business?
Yeah. It's not only for women. I'm the kind of the poster person for empowerment. I think that we haven't been really taught to tap into our biology, to
Mhm.
really understand ourselves and accept ourselves in a complete way. We're always told that we're not good enough, or there's certain parts of our character that is a problem, where we haven't really been taught how to hone in into those parts of our character that have a lot of superpower. And so, 10 years ago, I almost died. I had lesions in my brainstem and cerebellum. And with that experience allowed me to have a seat in the nervous system. So really understanding the inner journey that goes on in the 4 F's, which is the fight or flight, fawn or freeze of that nervous system, and really understanding fear. I know in society we hear a lot, don't fear, and fear is this and fear is that, where it's like, well, there's healthy fear. Like if you didn't have fear, you wouldn't have a healthy nervous system to navigate you through it and release certain chemicals that you're needed for whatever the experience that you're going through. So I'm here to change the narration of what healing can be, what empowerment is, and to, have people come back into their body to create safety so that they can come back into the journey of trusting themselves and listening to that intuition within themselves.
Awesome, awesome. And I am someone who I've been through a lot in life. Life has had its moments with me. I was widowed at 31.
Mm,
And it was just after that, it was like just one tragedy after another, and um, I spent quite a few years um, angry and upset and kind of lost, and it took some time for me to get back and seek seek help and turn my life around and get to a place where I'm at now. So
mhm.
I kind of understand a little of what people might be going through sometimes. And that's kind of why I when I got the opportunity to start the podcast, it was like, okay, this is something for me to a platform for me to share with other people and help other people as well and help myself because this therapy for me. This is gives me an opportunity to come on here and talk and have some wonderful conversations and learn about people and let them tell their story as well.
Yeah. Once you start doing that, the healing journey, it's being able to have conversations, and you've done the alchemy. You've taken your impurities and now you've turned them into gold, and you've not just kept it for yourself, you're sharing it with others to recognize those impurities that you want to push away. There's actually gold within them. And it's, unfortunately, anger gets such a bad rap with the healing, and that we're not supposed to be angry, rather than asking, well, why is it here? What is it trying to protect? Because anger is a default of a protection, it's the bodyguard. And a
Mhm.
lot of times, with grief, it's the bodyguard of not wanting to feel helpless, not wanting to feel the vulnerability, not wanting to feel the depths of sensitivity. And with grief, you're on the other side of love, the other side that nobody really talks about, and you don't know until you've gone through the experience that there's no bottom to that part. it's just never ending, and that can really activate that helplessness, and we're not really taught neither of the impermanence of life. Like, we're taught, like, everything's gonna stay the same way, and that if we do good deeds, good things will happen to us. And so it's really having to change that mindset of really what impermanence is, and really, what I do is teach people that time is a tool, not a toy.
Yeah.
Nothing is guaranteed for us, and it doesn't mean you did anything wrong, or that something evil is happening to you. There's a lot of things that you are out of your control that you don't see. Every time there is a transition of something, of someone or something, there's a ripple effect that it hits other people, that shifts different stories, different energies, different narrations. Yet when you're in your own story, it's difficult to wanna care about anybody else, and that's that process of grief.
Yeah, no, it really is. And it kind of it prepared me for what I had to endure this past year with my mother getting very ill and just battling dementia and Alzheimer's and finally and her health just deteriorating over the past year and her finally passing away in February. It, I didn't go back into that dark place. It was more of, okay, yes, let me process this and go through this and just it was different. It was completely different this time around because it was I kind of knew what how to deal with it this time around compared to when my wife passed away and all the other people that I lost in the early 2000s. So it was kind of it was definitely different. And then especially then having the support I had now with the relationships I was able to build through podcasting and all the people that were there for me. It was just it was different. It was definitely different.
Yeah, well, you developed your tools. The tools that were within you, that experience had you hone in on them and develop them. And so now it's like, "Oh, here's this dark, familiar space," yet the way that I'm gonna show up in it is different because I have tools, because I have
Mhm.
experience. I have a village also. I'm able to ask for
Yeah.
help now. At that point back then, I didn't know how to ask for help or how to interact with this disgusting feeling and reality that I had to be in. It was a nightmare.
It
And
was different. It was definitely different because it's not like how now where because even back then it was you're a man. You deal with it. You don't cry. You don't show emotions. You suck it up. And it just wasn't. It just wasn't that way. It was like it was so much more. I had lost my best friend. I had lost someone that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and it was there was no one for me there for me to really let let go. Like there was nowhere for me to go and express myself because you would look down at. You would look like, come on, why are you crying? You're a man. You can't do that.
yeah, it's, such a disservice that we do to the, males, that we have this narration that sensitivity has something to do with your sexuality or being a man. And, to give you more context also is that you lost your partner that helped you co-regulate your nervous system. And so that partner is no longer there, and it's like, who's gonna help me co-regulate? Who's gonna help me regulate my nervous system when this is, like, such a disorienting, feeling that I'm going through? So all of that, and then not being able to access your vulnerability because society tells you it's not allowed, and you have to just push through a lot of your emotions and what your actual experience is. You're told to doubt your own experience and not lean in and trust yourself and be able to trust your body of how it needs to release. You're telling your body, no, the way you're doing it is wrong.
Yeah.
So, coming back into yourself, like I tell people, healing isn't about getting to be a new person. Healing's about like lifting the layers of pain to come back into the greatness that you already are. Yet those layers of pain, separate you from that. And we're given this Kool-Aid that we have to be something different than who we already are. Where
Mhm.
it doesn't make sense to us, like, intuitively, it's like, "What do you mean? What like, there's great things within me. Why are you telling me that I shouldn't be able to access this stuff?" And so, that journey within, we're not taught it. Like I just said at the beginning, we're not taught how to access our biology. We're not taught how to develop our emotional intelligence. And especially for men, there's a narration that your sensitivity is a threat just as a title as a man, but also with your sexuality. All of a sudden, if you're feeling to cry or sensitive, then all of a sudden, you're questioning all kinds of different levels. And I think also too, us as women, we have to learn not to weaponize men with their sensitivity. Because a lot of women will weaponize a man. And then why am I going to open up then? I don't want to be weaponized. I don't want to be harmed with this psychologically.
Mhm.
So we have to do the work as a community.
Yeah. So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the early stages of your career, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I almost died, so that was a big one. My body, like, completely shut down. Like I said, the lesions in my brain had me in the hospital for almost 40 days, and they did a whole battery of tests, and to this day, I still don't have a diagnosis, of what caused the lesions and what helped the lesions, disappear. Like, there's still scarring in my brain, so it still impacts, pain and my energy level. Yet the prognosis was I was only gonna live for 6 months, and if I did go further, I'd need assistance, I wouldn't be able to drive or walk. And thankfully, I learned meditation a year after, that hospitalization, and that allowed me to go more in depth inside. I had a lot of trauma when I was younger, so that separated me from self, within myself, separated me from my worth, separated me from feeling like I belonged here. And that journey of somatically releasing energetically a lot of emotions that were suppressed and stored inside me, that was a game changer, and it was awful to do. It was not fun at all. And I still have to do the work. I think sometimes people think healing that it's a snap of a finger and everything has changed, and that there's this arrival point that everything is bliss. And it's like, no, you got to do the work to remind your mind not to create meaning for every single little thing and wanting to control things the way you need it to be to have a stability and mental fortitude to navigate through life. So, being a solo parent also to twin boys, I have 3 boys. My oldest is 29 now, and the twins are 14. At the time when I, first had the lesions, they were 4. I learned meditation, when they were 5. And so when you learn meditation, they tell you to cultivate a quiet space. And anybody that knows young boys and then twins,
No
that's not
quiet
happening.
space. No.
That's just not happening. I tried a little bit and everything else, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna bring it into the living room." So, I brought my meditation practice in the living room while the twins were fighting and TV roaring and banging and all this kinda stuff, and I got to see where my nervous system was always analyzing things, wanting to shut things down, wanting to control this, wanting to control that, and I was always, "Come back here, come back to the breath, come back to the breath. That's not your part." It's like come back and seeing how the mind analyzes and judges and wants things to be a certain way and how disrupted it can get and the spiraling that goes on and the power of your breath of bringing that awareness back and allowing that regulation of that nervous system to find safety even in the environment that you're in. So I had to do like a boot camp in that aspect. I know a lot of people think meditation is to make your mind quiet, where it's like, no, it's for you no longer to be identified with the thoughts and for you not to want to control the environment all the time. That you find the stability within yourself, that you're in the eye of the storm. You're not being swirled around in the tornado, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes plenty of sense. It really truly does. Um, for for me, it was just Now, especially now, right? When I started the podcast, I didn't know where I was going with it. Like I started the podcast and it was just it wasn't interview based. It was just me coming on because it was at the beginning. It was at the very beginning of the pandemic, and it was kind of the way of me just expressing myself and talking about it. And a lot of the stuff that I spoke on was a lot of the negative things that were going on. It was the George Floyd situation, all the nonsense with the election, just nothing but just negative thoughts and I didn't want that. And so when I went more to an interview based interview in a base podcast and focused on talking to people who wanted to share their stories, that's when things really shifted for me, and I truly fell in love with podcasting and fell in love with doing the podcast because now I was helping people. Now people were listening to the show and and it was having an impact. People were like, I needed to hear that or whatever it was, or it was a one conversation where I had with a high school friend of mine, and we talked about growth mindset and we talked about self development and building yourself up and everything. And a former classmate of ours tuned in and heard the episode, and she was on the fence about starting a business, and listening to us speak and talk all the stuff that we talked about, she's like, man, these are two guys that I know personally, that I grew up with personally. If they can do this, I can do this. And so she took that leap and started her business and sent me the message and told me, and that was inspiring to me.
Yeah.
That to me was inspiring because I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. Someone I know I had an impact on. And then that's all I wanted was to, if I can impact one person's life, I'm good. Then I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I have 1 in a million. If you're impacting one person, that one person will ripple to a million other people.
Yes.
Because we're feeling bodies that think. Our nervous system reads information way before we use any vocal or language or words. So we read each other with our nervous system. It reads in such a in-depth part that we don't tap into. Like, we're taught not to listen to our gut or our intuition, that it's might be too woo-woo and it's too simple, and how would you know this? And it's like, no, you need to listen to that.
Mhm.
It's there to guide you. That's your, your homing system, that's your transmission to be able to communicate in a depth that sometimes language, like our emotions and what our experiences are, our words can't even capture all of it. And so I'm really thankful that you've done this alchemy. And, what people don't realize, media is very negative because our nervous system is in negative bias. It's one function is don't die. So it's always going to look for the problems. And so when you hear a person that's really negative, that means they're very dysregulated in their nervous system. And they're not understanding that they think they are the nervous system. And so doing that shift in your perception to actually identify, listen, I'm going too much in the negative and it's like it's tainting the way I see the world and how I interact with myself.
Yeah.
So then you start doing the shift of, wait, I can see it in a different way. I can interact in a different way. And does it come naturally? No. Yet eventually, when you develop your tools, it will be embodied. So it is a part of you where other people will only always see it one way and you'll present a different perspective. And they're like, I never even thought of thinking it that way. And that's where the change becomes, like, everybody wants to talk about the world needs to change, yet the only way the world can change is you have to go within yourself. And we have to have conversations like you're doing to be able to create a space of community and that we don't have to do it alone. We're not
Yeah.
meant to do it alone.
Nope. Not at all. What does leadership mean to you, especially as a woman in today's business landscape?
I think leadership means being honest. And, sharing what you have as experiences to empower those below you, and also being willing to always learn and also acknowledge when you've made mistakes. The whole
Mhm.
thing about leadership isn't about perfection. It's about building. And anybody that has built anything, there's going to be some errors. You measured it wrong, you cut it wrong, or this didn't work. There's all kinds of things that go on in the process. So leadership requires that transparency that, you know what, I'm here and I'm looking to be able to communicate and I'm looking to empower to see the greatness in you that you're not even able to see about yourself. But
Yeah.
also, leadership requires you to receive. People think leadership is all about giving, 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 and that's a very empowered state. If you're giving, then you're not vulnerable because to receive puts you in a vulnerable state, and you have to
And
be able to receive.
yeah, and when if you're just giving, 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 you're draining yourself. How do you expect to continue to give if you're not recharging?
Exactly,
If you're not refilling up yourself, how do you expect to continue to give? And
exactly.
that's something that doing the podcast has been amazing for me because when I sit down and I have these interviews and these conversations, by the time I'm done, I'm energized, I'm wound up because
Yeah,
there's such great conversation and the energy is just flowing. It's not just me giving; I'm receiving as well, and so the conversation just energizes me and I'm like, oh man, this is great. There was early on in my podcasting journey. I, there was a day where I did 4 shows in one day.
oh,
Um,
okay. That's a lot. If
and
anybody's in the podcast world, it's a lot.
this was when I was editing my shows.
Oh,
So
boy.
so it was a lot of work after, but during that the recordings, it was amazing because each conversation was just great. And by the time I got to the fourth conversation, I was still energized. I was still full of energy and the guests at the end said thank you. And I go, why? It's like because they knew I had done 3 shows prior to this one, and they felt like, man, you still got all this energy. You still brought your A game. It's like thank you. I was like, it was easy for me because the 3 previous conversations was just great. It was just recharging. It was just like my battery was just fully charged throughout. It wasn't
Yeah,
like I was just pouring into it, pouring into it, pouring into it, and not getting anything back. I was pouring into it and receiving. So
yeah.
it was just like nothing.
It
It was
was
just like,
reciprocal.
yeah, it was just one of those days where, man, it was. Now I won't do 4 episodes in a day. I know better now, but yeah, it was a great day.
Yeah. And, what people don't realize, like I said, the nervous system is reading all kinds of information. So when it's a reciprocal conversation, there's nothing that's forced. There's nothing that you're trying to figure out or plan or, you know, do the presentation of something. You're just being you and allowing that curiosity to lead in the conversations and allowing intuition to guide you in that also. So that we're here as human beings with the curiosity and the intuition. So then it's not like, oh, I have to judge myself, I have to be something, or all these different things, which neurologically, it drains a lot of neural energy. So
Yeah.
when you can just be yourself and be curious and let intuition, it's like, oh, this is great. It's not trying to, be something other than you are or forcing something.
Well, what is one of the common barriers that hold women back from stepping into leadership roles, and how can they break through?
The not good enough. A lot of them feel that they're not good enough and they're not worthy, of receiving their greatness, their confidence, that they have something to offer. So and, we have the narrative where a lot of women, if they are in the mother role, that they're not allowed to have a life. They have to be just a mother, that they don't have their individual aspect, that they have other skills and talents to share that will energize them. So a lot of times it's that, not feeling good enough that limits a lot of them from stepping into the space of their greatness. And it doesn't, a lot of times we do all or nothing with our mind and we don't realize it can just be a little by little. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Yet, when you do that bite, recognize there's going to be a lot of fear, there's going to be a lot of discomfort. Yet, that is what the change is because you're rewiring your nervous system to go into a space that it's telling you, no, it's not safe to go in. Because when you
Yeah.
don't feel good enough, and then you're stepping into a space that is making you feel good enough, there is conflict that goes on inside because your nervous system's like, no, 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 this is not a good space. Like something's going to be taken away, or you're going to get harmed, or you always feel like the other shoe is going to drop. And that is where you have to come in to regulate, to tell your nervous system, no, this is where we are recreating new experiences. So it's not always bliss and everything is just always in flow and it comes naturally. It's like there's warrior work that has to be done to rewire that nervous
Yeah.
system.
Can you explain the importance of resilience in leadership, and how can people cultivate it into their professional lives?
Resilience requires honesty. And as you said, at the beginning about your grief and not being able to access the emotions and actually process them in a proper way. And also recognize that you're human. A lot of people, they get, turned off by resilience because unfortunately life is impermanent and your vulnerability and sensitivity are going to be impacted by it. And so we don't like to feel helplessness. It doesn't feel good to be in a deep sadness. It doesn't feel good to be really angry. And so being able to acknowledge when these things come allows that activity to, the alarm system that's going on in your system to shut down. Like the bells aren't ringing high. Because as soon as you can name it, then the body's like, oh, you're gonna acknowledge it. Because a lot of times we don't acknowledge what's going on within us. We don't want to have to deal with the situation. Like, with your partner, there was a part in you like, I don't want this reality. I don't want this. You're resisting it. You're pushing it away. You're creating all these scenarios in your mind to try
Mhm.
to get back to what you had before. And
Yeah.
in that, you're resisting the as is of what's here. So psychologically, there's a lot of suffering which causes the pain within yourself. So the resilience is being able to be in this new reality and acknowledge like the sucky parts of it, the having to take a temper tantrum. Like when I say about anger and people have a wrong relationship with it, I'm like, befriend the anger, bang some shit, scream in a pillow. Don't go against it, work with it. Like when I'm saying break some stuff, it's like in a way that is safe. Like there's smash rooms or go into a forest and hit some rocks, bang some trees, bang some things so that the
Mhm.
energy of what that helplessness is inside your body can be expressed.
Yeah.
So then that charge isn't inside your body, and then you can relate with yourself a little bit different that, "Shit, this is the new reality. Even though I don't like it and it sucks, I have to find my joy in this." Because resilience is being able to access your joy again. And when you have gone through, grief and deep pain, you don't wanna be around joy because it feels like a threat that it's gonna be taken away. So, really accessing that joy again and allowing yourself to have permission to be what you need to be and process how you need to process. Like I said, coming back into trusting yourself and asking for help. It's the biggest thing.
And that's something. Oh well, this is another reason why I like doing lives, because we have a good friend of mine, Corrado, who's been a loyal supporter since day one, and he's one of the reasons why I like going live, because he interacts, and he leaves wonderful comments like this one where he goes, "Wow, never thought of it in that manner. What she's saying makes sense."
Mhm. I told you we're not taught to access our biology. We're taught that it's doing it the wrong way rather than asking, well, why is it here? We're
Yeah.
disempowered a lot. We're not taught to like trust our unique way. Yes, there may be faults. Yes, it may create mistakes and everything, yet better understand why that's happening rather than being shamed and guilted in, well, you're doing it wrong. Well, let's better understand why. What's going on in your mind? What's going on within yourself? What are these emotions that you may not like? A lot of us only feel our secondary emotions. We don't feel our authentic emotions. And when our authentic emotions try to come up, it's like, "Whoo, what are you? I don't want to feel you. I can't. You're taking over my behavior, my mental fortitude. Like, what is this?" And it's having grace to remember you're human. This is a human experience. And that's why you create community, a tribe, a village, so that when you're in these low points, you can be reminded of your strength and help to co regulate your system.
Awesome, awesome. How do you personally stay motivated and focused on your goals, especially in moments of self doubt or setbacks?
Well, as you heard before we started recording, I am not feeling well right now. So your
No.
listeners may not realize that, yet I am feeling like crap. Yet, and you asked like we could reschedule, and I was like, no, because when I get in these conversations, I'm energized.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting by myself, oh, it's feeling sorry for myself, and this is crappy. Honesty again. It's asking myself, "What am I feeling? Is there safety?" A lot of times, we don't even know how to acknowledge I'm feeling unsafe inside my body, and whatever that can be, helplessness or the fear, or there's certain emotions that I'm feeling. So, it's being able to access that honesty with myself and supplying my needs in my needs of being able to if I have to pause things, I can pause things and really no longer go because my part of my trauma put me in the fawn aspect of my nervous system. So the people pleasing. So always giving to other people, yet not seeing that I needed to give to myself. And so being able to hold that space now of silence and solitude with myself allows me to show up in such a big way with other people because I'm learning to serve my needs, which that was a very foreign concept to me before.
Hmm. Yeah. How important is mentorship and community support in in your own leadership journey, and how do you suggest people go seek out mentors?
Mentorship is the only way that we strive and we really hone into our curiosity and trust ourselves. So there's experiences like everybody's thinking that it's only like, in schools and academic. It's actually the practicality of things. A lot of us are filled with a lot of theory and content, yet it's like, where did you practice this? Where did you actually do it in your real life? And so when you can get mentors that can relate and explain things that, I'm not just talking, I've walked the walk so that you can relate with it yourself. Because a mentor is going to let you see that you're human. Yet find the things that stop you or find the things that put a BS. You have to call out your own BS in certain aspects. So mentorship is really important with growth. Like, and mentorship doesn't mean like I could get a mentorship from somebody that's 20 years younger than me because they have certain lived experiences that I don't have that I need to develop these skills within myself. We always think mentorship is somebody older than us, and that's not what mentorship is. It's somebody has a skill or experience that we want to be able to get energized from. So open up your mind to see that wait, mentorship is in all kinds of different aspects. Yet when we allow that opening of, "Can I ask for help?" That's again the thing. You have to be able to be willing to ask for help and learn that, like, I'm the student in this aspect, and I have to be okay with being that student and learning things.
What advice would you give someone who is just starting out in their entrepreneurial or leadership journey?
Be honest again with yourself. Find out, like, what is your goal? Like, and really be honest about what that goal is. Because you can create a whole big vision, and then when you start doing your healing, you're recognizing, oh, this is just a bunch of trauma responses because of whatever the narration that's going on inside you. Entrepreneurship takes a lot of dedication and consistency. So you have to be honest with yourself. Are you willing to be disciplined and consistent. Like everybody, yeah, I want to create my own world and my own path, yet it's a lot of work. Don't let some of these social media 15-second reels make it seem like it's all fun and games. Like most of them aren't showing you the failures and the frustration and the
Mhm,
things that they're going through. They're just showing you the curated of like, look at me and I have it all polished and I'm
mhm,
performative. No, be honest, yet also don't limit yourself. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. If you wanna go into entrepreneurship, but you're not able to do the leap all, then keep your 9 to 5 while doing the entrepreneur at nighttime or in the weekends, so that you can create that capital for yourself and that confidence. Confidence only comes in lived experiences. So the more like, even when I speak to people, I was on a podcast yesterday and she asked about the self-doubt, and I was like, "Oh, that thing still pops up in my head." Like, it always pops up, "Oh, these people don't wanna hear anything I'm saying," or "They don't wanna hear," or "I don't have anything to offer them," or all this stuff, and it's me learning that, okay, this is just the wind and not to identify with it. Yet I've developed the tools to go through that. So recognize when you're an entrepreneur, you're going to face your own mirror. You have to face yourself, and you have to call out your own BS. And what's important is, find a coach, find a mentor that will help you go through the mental fortitude of what you're going to go through, because entrepreneurship is going to show you that mirror about yourself, that we play little scenarios of who we think we are. We don't really see ourselves in real time. And it's like having to see yourself in real time and access the tools that are needed to go through the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship. But ha
yeah,
have that honesty with yourself, and when the doubt comes in, find people that will reassure you. You can find all kinds of people that will tell you what's wrong with you. Start building the people that will tell you what's right with you.
yeah. Um, some people don't realize that uh, entrepreneurship is you put in like when you work for someone else, you're doing 40 hours, whatever it is that you're getting paid for. When you're an entrepreneur, you have no time to yourself. This is you investing a whole lot of time in trying to build your business. So it's people think when they think of entrepreneurship, they just think, oh, I'm gonna make my own money and do all this, and it's nothing like that. It's like you said, people work hard to get to reach any level of success in entrepreneurship, and some people might just see the success part of it. They don't see the long nights. They don't see the missed opportunities. They don't see all these other things that you had to go through in order to get to where you're at. It's like there's a meme I've seen of someone on the iceberg, and you just see the tip of the iceberg, which means success or whatever it is. But underneath the iceberg is everything that they've been through just to get to that tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. And entrepreneurship, you don't get to shut that thing off.
Mhm.
When you go on vacation and you're working for a salary, it's like, "Okay, I shut that off." Unless you're really involved in, you really love the work that you're doing, it can be difficult. But a
Yeah.
lot of times you can shut that off and it's somebody else's problem. When you're an entrepreneur, unless you've been able to hire people to do some of the work for you, that thing is going 24/7. You can try to shut it off, but you're always thinking of all the different scenarios that have to look at, because there's all kinds of safety mechanisms that you have to consider. And the momentum has to keep going all the time.
Yeah. What role does mindset play in achieving success, and how can people shift their mindset to align with their goals?
Well, you have, like I said, be honest with yourself and recognize when there's that negative bias. Start regulating your nervous system so that you can see the possibilities. If you're willing, would you be willing to do a short meditation right now so I can show the listeners in
Let's
live
do
time
this.
what that looks like?
Let's do it.
Okay. So for the listeners, a lot of times you're listening to this while you need your visual. So I'm going to ask Wiz and myself to close our eyes. Yet, if you need your eyes, keep them open. Yet you can do the other prompts. what I'm indicating. So, Wiz, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to be aware of the rhythm and just keeping your awareness on you. Watching your breath go in your nostrils and going back out. There may be some sensations or feelings coming up in the body. It's safe to feel. It's safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop into your body. Now, there may be some thoughts or memories that have popped up in your mind, and it's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating a space between your breath and those thoughts, and going deeper into your body, keeping that awareness on your breath. Just while still staying with your breath, creating that space between the thoughts and your breath, going deeper into your body. Now, while still staying with your breath at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while staying with your breath. So, this is a tool I access several times a day and sometimes several times an hour. Because when I get overwhelmed or spinned out or I'm in a place, because anxiety is contagious. So if somebody's anxious, it's activating your anxiety. And so grounding myself in my breath allows me to be in my center and remember of being in the moment, because your breath is always in the moment. Your thoughts are not in the moment. They're in the past or trying to control the future. Your breath is always in the moment. So being able to access your breath, because I know a lot of people will hear breathe and it's like, "Ah, I'm already doing that and I don't want to hear that garbage." The missing part is bring your awareness to your breath. Watch your breath. And you may start noticing, wow, like it's too shallow or I'm breathing too fast. And then it allows you to come back into your body, to pay attention what's going on internally so that you can see your heart palpitation, you can feel the certain sensations or feelings, and actually start activating and feeling the emotions you're feeling that you may
Mhm.
have numbed yourself from.
No,
How was your experience?
it was amazing. I'm so relaxed now. It was so relaxing for me. For me, it was just like just it gave me an opportunity just to just okay,
Come out of
whatever
your head?
yeah, whatever I had going on in my head from work earlier is kind of like gone, and now I'm just focused on now.
Yeah, I take people out of their head and bring them back into their body. So as your podcast says, stuck in my head mind, we are stuck in our head a lot of times because we intellectualize things.
Yeah.
Yet it's to drop into our body and embody and trust ourselves that we can feel our way through. But feeling doesn't always feel good. Yet the more that you create safety in your body, then you can start trusting. But at the beginning, there's going to be conflicting and there's going to be conflict going on because certain feelings you've given it a certain definition. And now to remove that definition to just feel it, like you said, people are telling me, "What crying, don't cry and get over it." Where it's like, no, I gotta cry, and it's okay, and it's safe for me to cry.
So Corrado was said he was breathing heavy before the meditation, and now he's breathing in a relaxed manner. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. There's something with my tone of voice also that does like a hypnotherapy where it regulates people's nervous system so that they feel safe to go into their body. Because, if you've experienced trauma or deep pain, it feels like a real threat to go back into your body. It feels like a threat to be in peace and joy. And so you do everything that is in your power not to be in there. Even though intellectually you'll say, I want peace, but viscerally in your body, it doesn't feel safe. So it's also acknowledging that when you're going into these spaces, this is gonna be activated and you're safe to go through those feelings. But we're not really taught to be messy in those feelings, and that's the whole thing, like, you're gonna be messy through your healing process. There is no neat way of a bow and all that. It's going to be messy, and allow yourself to be in that messy so that you can discover the greatness within you.
Yeah. That was an awesome experience. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's something that's something I really do need to get into is taking my time and to breathe and just relaxing and really getting back into myself and so thank you. I needed that one. I feel like today was so I'm a my day job. I am a dual rate pit boss at in a casino, and today
Okay.
was my first official day being a pit boss, and it wasn't such a bad day. I made a couple of mistakes here and there, but that was to be expected. It was like I said, it was my first day doing the job, and so now after doing the breathing exercise, I'm like, man, all right. It wasn't. It was. I looked at the day and it was like, man, it really wasn't such a horrible day. It was. I did pretty well.
Yeah, you shifted your perception, and, you don't unfortunately, what we do to ourselves is we don't allow context. We do black and white. Yet, you know how you're talking, it's like, "Oh, I made some mistakes," but it's okay. You're allowing context to come in there.
Mhm.
Another thing that we don't realize, you said, "Okay, you gotta explain to me what a pit boss is in a casino. What does that mean?" Like, this is
Okay,
lingo
so
I don't.
all right, so um, a pit boss, like so in the casino, there's bunch of tables. A floor supervisor watches four tables where he has to watch four dealers and four tables. So he might have two blackjacks and craps and whatever. A pit boss controls all of the tables. They have to manage breaks. They have to manage all these other things. They have to manage just everything. They control the whole pit. Now they controlling every table. So now that's more work where than when you're just a floor supervisor. Because when you're a floor supervisor, you're just taking care of
A
a
small part.
section. Yeah, you're just
Mhm.
covering a small section. Whereas as a pit boss, you have the whole set. You have the whole floor. You have everything that needs to be controlled.
Yeah. Okay. So when you entered into this space this morning, how did you enter into the space?
A little nervous. It's like I said, it was my first day. Truly, like I had days where I trained,
Yeah,
but it wasn't really like
this was
how.
live.
Yeah, this was live. This was me without. Of course,
Okay.
I had people I could call and ask questions and stuff like that, but it was still it was different. It was a different experience. Like when I'm a floor, I don't have so much worries.
Exactly. So you had more responsibility. How
Yeah.
did you engage with the nervousness?
Um,
How did you acknowledge it?
how did I acknowledge it? Oh man,
Or did you?
I didn't. I really didn't because I was lucky enough where I had a small pit today. I didn't have the big pit today. I had a small section, so it wasn't like I was. In a couple next week, I have another pit day, and I'm relief, so I have to cover a much bigger pit during the day. But it was
So we're going to come back. You see how I mentioned about not being able to be honest with ourselves?
yeah.
You can say that I was nervous, yet you weren't able to acknowledge it to yourself in that moment of saying, wait, you're feeling this and acknowledging it.
Hmm.
And then taking a deep breath to let it pass through and be like, oh, you can see me? Because that emotion, that feeling wants just your attention. But a lot of times we're like a nagging kid, like, get off me. Like, don't, we got things to do. Yet a lot of times, if we were just to give a moment to listen and let that child feel seen, the whole alert goes away and it doesn't feel
Sure.
so uncomfortable in ourselves. And then you can start grounding in, wait, I have the tools.
Yeah.
But because we don't acknowledge the nervousness, it sends you in a spiral. And then you start feeling the anxiety of everybody because what you're not taking into context, you're feeling everybody's anxiety in that environment because the pressure of the responsibility is on you.
Yeah.
So it's learning, wait a minute, how am I acknowledging what I'm feeling within myself and taking those breaths and learning that my confidence is going to develop in this experience. But it's scary to make a mistake. I'm not allowed to make mistakes. What the
Yeah.
heck? This is lots of money. It's a lot of responsibility.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yet having those conversations with yourself of, "Yeah, I get," and, we're saying it, yet when you're doing this inside, it happens very quickly of feeling and acknowledging and just allowing yourself to talk yourself off the ledge before you jump in the overwhelm. But the main thing of talking yourself off the is identifying, "What am I feeling?"
True.
And just because you identify it doesn't mean it's gonna not pop back up again. It's just being able to identify, "Oh, you're here again. Okay. Take a breath. Okay, what are you trying to give me like because your nervousness was trying to give you information.
Yeah.
This is all unknown and uncertainty, and we got a whole bunch of responsibility for something that we don't even know what to freaking do. How the heck are you telling me to be in this situation and I can't read what happened previously because I have no data from the past to be able
Yeah.
to tell you what there is. And that's the change, the unknown and uncertainty. So it's activating fear. So the
But
nervousness was trying to give you information.
yeah, no, it was funny because my boss comes in. He goes, "Oh man, I thought I was gonna find you in a corner, balled up and crying." I said, "No, no," but I kind of felt that way. But no, I was able to get through. But I was also lucky enough that the dealers that I had with me were three of the best that we have, and so I had them to lean on and had them to help me out. Like I said, I made a few mistakes. It, but it wasn't nothing major that couldn't be fixed or corrected. But and so I had the support system to help me get through it.
Yeah, you also had your partner and your mother.
Yeah,
If you believe in that,
yeah,
of feeling their energy and feeling their messages and their guidance. Your ancestors are always supporting you, yet a lot of times we forget to access that aspect. We're
yeah.
nervous systems that recreate new nervous systems. So that is there too that we forget to tap into that part.
Mm. But this has been great, man. I love having this conversation. I wish we had more time, but I know you're doing another show after this.
Yeah.
Now you get the solo screen and you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find you, where they can check out all your stuff, check out your podcast, everything.
Okay. So they can find me at my website, www.liftoneself.com. That's liftoneself.com. That's where you can do a 15-minute discovery call to see if you want to do some one work with me. Presently, I'm doing some in person, yet I live in Ottawa, Canada. So unless you're flying over here to do the in person, uh, I will be starting to do some courses, come in the fall, so that's gonna be on my website soon enough, and like, was mentioned, I have a podcast that's called Lift Oneself, where I have conversations that is my main point is to remove the stigma surrounding mental health and allow people to come back into themselves, and I'm also on social media under Lift Oneself, where I leave a lot of free content so that people can access tools so that the world doesn't feel so lonely and that they can actually a lot of times people say it feels like you're in my head and it's just that I'm sharing the experience that makes it an opening and a community for all of us to go through the healing journey and to reconnect within ourselves and our greatness. So I'm really thankful to be on this podcast today.
And I'm very thankful for having you on the podcast. You've um you're amazing. You got even even under the weather, you came through and shine bright. So I greatly appreciate you coming through and doing your thing. It's it was great to have you, and the door is always open. You're more than welcome to come back through and shine bright again, because I love repeat guests, especially guests that are very knowledgeable like yourself and who bring something to the table. So
Thank you. Thank you. This has been a delight. You are an amazing host. The safety and security that you provide, no wonder you have success in the podcast. You're exactly doing what you were meant to do. And like I said, you're doing that alchemy. You've taken those impurities and you've turned them into gold, and you've not just harbored it for yourself, you're sharing it with others so that they can turn their impurities and turn it into gold. And that's the wealth that you have. So thank you so much.
again, thank you, and thank you, Corrado, for
Yeah.
interacting and doing the breathing with us. I greatly appreciate it, and as always, brother, thank you. Um, it's this is why I decided to go live, was to have the interaction, and plus I don't want to edit anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm now you got me like, I'm like, oh, I might start doing this because the editing is a beast in itself because,
It's a
yeah,
lot
like
of
you
work.
said,
It is a lot of work.
conversations are
Yeah.
invigorating, and then you go to
Mhm.
do the edit, and you don't got that same energy
No.
to edit and do this, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," and then, it's like, "Why wouldn't I just do the live and not bother with the editing and everything else?" So
Yeah.
and now you
Just
got me curious.
hey, anything I can do to help.
I appreciate that.
But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show, and we'll chat a little bit before you leave.
Okay.
But thank you so much for being a wonderful guest.
Yeah, and for yourself and for your listeners, I just wanna remind you, please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone. Another great show. Um, Listen, we usually don't do shows on Thursdays, but I'm extremely happy that I did this show. It was something that I needed. As always, big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady. Greatly appreciate everything you do for me. Um, Big shout out to Corrado for always coming through and being one of the biggest supporters of the show. I greatly appreciate you. Big shout out to Nat for coming through, even though she's under the weather and still doing an amazing job. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, or to the podcast. We're on all major platforms. Check us out. Uh, thank you all, and have a great rest of your day. You know how your boy Wise is it. Peace out.